where the bottleneck is. So we are running into a lot of problems in terms of getting timely approvals for our buildings and for our locations. So what happens is that the government of India, as per our license, requires us to meet certain QoS standards. All right. So what happens is that we will, after having submitted our application, have what is known as a deemed permission. So we've, done all of the, ticked all of the marks and said, look, and if there's a delay, the government, as you rightly say, we have to provide quality of service. In order to do that, we'll start the service. Now, a couple of things happen, and I'm not suggesting that it always just happens in Pune. It happens in lots of localities. The local municipalities obviously are looking for additional revenue. And so in this search for revenue, they say, well, we're going to shut down your towers if you don't pay us this type of revenue approval. And then, they will come and shut down your tower. The saying is that you haven't complied. Now, one of the ways that they say the towers are quote unquote illegal is not because it doesn't comply with the EMF standards or the DOT requirements. They're saying it's illegal because it's quote unquote an illegal building. Now, if you know, possibly 80% of all of the buildings in Pune are in some sense illegal because it hasn't got its certificate of occupancy. Right, and that is just a simple state of it, because you've got an extra floor, or you're on land that was originally, farmland and hasn't completely been covered. Also, remember that there are large, what we would call, illegal colonies, right? Illegal colonies are there and have been there for a thing, and so obviously we have to provide telephone services, just like water and electricity is provided in these illegal slums, right? They are. So we cannot be said to not produce it. Unfortunately, what happens is that the municipality will come there and shut the tower, but will not shut the electricity and the water off. They're both, all three of them are utilities, right? But for some reason, they will pick on us and say, oh, well, you're the illegal tower. And then, of course, the third area is because there is the fear of EMF. So somebody will complain to the municipality, and the municipality will say, oh, well, we've got a complaint from so-and-so, so therefore we are shutting it down. Now, in your package, there's a complete dossier as to the whole issue of EMF. But just very quickly, let me highlight that both the TRAI and the DOT Secretary and the TRAI have come out, and we'll have clips of it over here, have come out categorically and said that the safety norms established by the government of India are safe. All right? So please remember that this is not an industry-imposed safety standard. Huh? People think that we are responsible and that we are coming up with these standards. No. The government of India comes up with health standards, it comes up with food safety standards, it comes up with pharmaceutical standards, it comes up with safety emission standards for cars, all the way down, right? All kinds of standards. Health and safety for electromagnetic fields is set by the government of India. The government of India in 2008 established those in conformity with the World Health Organization, because that's what is globally applied. 95% of the countries of the world use the safety norms developed by the World Health Organization under the UN, under the United Nations. 2008, that's what the government of India did. 2011, because of the concern among many parts of the citizenry, the government decided to further reduce it without any scientific evidence, just saying just for abundant caution. Industry didn't object. We said, okay, it's your responsibility, government, all right, to bring it to whatever level you believe is safe for the customers or safe for the citizens. So we complied. If we don't comply, there are hefty penalties, 10 lakhs for every violation. All right, so when a local municipality chooses to say, oh, well, we don't care about what the central government says, it's a central government subject, unfortunately, then, we get caught in the middle. And in addition to this, so not only has the central government said so, 7 high courts of the country, in response to various PILs filed on the issue specifically of EMF and radiation, quote unquote, and health and impact on flora and fauna and birds and bees and sparrows, have in all of the instances said, no, it's safe. We are not going to intervene and say that it is harmful. And we have that documentation as well. We'll be happy to share that. I think it's in your package as well. So not only has the government said it's safe, the courts have upheld it in 7 significant high court issues. Various doctors from AIIMS, All India Institute of Medical Science, and neurologists, and all of these doctors, and Tata Memorial Center, they've all looked at this and have opined that, based on the evidence, it's safe, all right? And then, finally, what we're saying is that, look, if you look at the actual compliance, it's, the technical folks and people professors in IIT, 24 of them signed an affidavit submitted to the Allahabad High Court when the Allahabad High Court said, we want technical experts to opine on this matter of EMF. And so 24 from the IITs, Indian Institutes of Science, All India Institute of Medical Science, all got together. 24 of them signed and did extensive contributions in terms of looking at the situation and submitted an affidavit to the Allahabad High Court saying that based on their understanding, EMF as the safety norms are not injurious to health. So the point is that when you look at all of the issues and challenges with regard to call drops, this is principally what we are facing. Now you ask me, why should the consumer suffer? Well, we would never like the consumer to suffer, but some of these happen to be outside of our control. When an operational tower is possibly shut down, right, there's not a whole lot I can do other than go to the courts, and exactly that's what I've done. This particular issue is in front of the High Court in Bombay, right? A PIL was filed, we've gone to the Bombay High Court. The Bombay High Court is going to hear this in February. All right, so we'll see.
19,000 towers in Pune that you showed us.
Yes.
How many are on buildings which you said might not have an occupancy certificate?
That I don't. I have to get the number in terms of. See, the thing is that so when we submit to the municipal corporation, we get a letter from the owner, and the owner is paying commercial taxes, right? So this is the anomaly. The municipality is getting taxes from the owner because all of a sudden the tower has made it a commercial building, and then you can't turn around and say it's illegal. See, this is part of the anomaly we face.
I mean, the companies, are they not supposed to do the due diligence before erecting the towers to see if all the documents are in place?
Yes. So when we enter into a contract with the owner, we get all the documentation. Clearly, because without the ownership documents, but the problem is that the certificate of occupancy hasn't been obtained. People move in and they have ownership and they are being financed by banks. So all the documentation is there, but since technically the certificate of occupancy hasn't been finally given, technically it's illegal. All right, and by the way, also when you go to the Jugalpattis over here, the illegal colonies, but yet those are people who need service as well, right? So, and what we've told the municipality is that, listen, if you should come back at any point and demolish a building because it's illegal, we're happy to remove our towers. When you give notice either to the illegal, folks or the building, you tell us, we'll remove our towers. But until such time, allow the service to continue.
You have also talked about removal of towers. So can you share the data on the number of towers which have been removed in Pune, PCMC?
Yeah, so just we'll talk about the. I haven't kept in terms of the number of towers that but in Mumbai, for example, because we've been tracking this. In Mumbai, I lost 186 towers in the last 5 months.
What was the reason behind it?
The reason behind it was because people were complaining, right, on EMF.
Out of what? Out of 186, out of what is the
186 in Mumbai. In Mumbai, that's close to about 30,000 towers.
It's not a significant.
No, it's not significant except when they all happen to be in the same locality, right? So when it is in Malabar Hills, when it is in South Mumbai, right, then those two areas will have very high percentage of drop calls, right? So while the rest of Mumbai,
in South Mumbai?
many of these are in South Mumbai, many of these are in Malabar Hill area, that area. Yes, you're laughing, you know why. All right, the same thing, I mean, look at this, if you go back, look at this areas that are EMF, just go back. EMF related, yeah, I mean, look at, you can see, the other reason is that if you look at a place like Pune, we don't have permission to put up in government land. Right, a good section of Pune is under Army control or Air Force control, right? Look at this. I mean, you can see Pune, Camp, all of these areas.
Previous listing, all the cantonment boards areas have been shown as problem areas.
Yes, yeah, go back. Yeah, and again, principally because, and this is one area when you ask what are we doing, we went and talked to the government, and now the government, the central government, has agreed that they will give us permission to implement cell towers on government lands, defense lands, and so that is in the process of being worked out now. But till as recently as 5 months ago, we could never get property in any defense area, obviously for perceived senses of security and all of this sort of thing.
When will this actually materialize?
It's happening in Delhi, I can say that. So in Delhi, for example, if you go to Rashtrapati Bhavan, you'll see a cell tower on Rashtrapati Bhavan. You'll see cell towers on Parliament buildings, you'll see cell towers on North Block, you'll see cell towers on the Textile Ministry. So all of these, you'll see cell towers in some of the defense areas, buildings that are coming up.
So
So
the guidelines are out.
there are no guidelines per se, except saying, yes, so the central government has, the Department of Telecommunications has written to all of these defense entities and said, listen, we are telling you that there's no particular reason why you should exclude your properties, and so please talk to the local operators and put up the appropriate commercial agreements, because they can't tell the individuals how to come.
It's just been sort of installed. These have just been installed.
Correct. So right now the permissions, the minister, the Ravi Shankar Prasad ji, had just made this instruction. So now it has begun in Delhi. All right. Now we're beginning to talk to various areas like Pune, in the other areas where there are very large military presences.
So will you give a tentative rollout for this?
So this rollout, we are in the process right now. As I said, right now we are focusing in Delhi, because Delhi is one of the areas which is highly impacted. Mumbai is the other area highly impacted. These are the two areas which have very high drop calls relative to the rest of the country. In Pune, as of today, and we'll show you the things, the drop call percentage is not as severe. I mean, in pockets in Pune, you'll find this. But in the rest of Maharashtra, we are in compliance with the TRAI mandated 2%. We'll show you that. Yeah, so this is, so notice that if you look at the whole state, all right, we are less than the 2%. All of our member operators.
Unfortunately, you pass through these areas, so for an individual it can be very, very near.
Exactly, that is precisely the point. That is precisely the point. So unfortunately, because it's a mobile, it's not a fixed, and because it's mobile, and I'm sorry?
How much is it in Mumbai? This particular number?
In Mumbai, it is close to about 3.5%. In 3.5%, in some areas as high as 4%, but they've all been coming down to the 1 and 2%. But in certain pockets, again, as I said, you'll find that it shoots up to 3 or 4% in some areas.
And when you say EMF hotspot, what do you mean?
So this means that because of the fear of electromagnetic, that it has either been removed or we can't get new leases. When we go to get permissions, either the Resident Welfare Association or the Housing Authority says, no, we're sorry, we can't give you sites in this location. And so you can see it, some of them are the
Is there a connection between the socio-economic status?
I didn't want to go there, I mean, clearly. Clearly, I mean, the thing is that, when you go there, people say, why do I need the income? And why do I need the headache, right? And by the way, it's not local. If you go to Delhi, you go to Luton's Dome, that is an area where we have a phenomenal problem. Because 80% of the properties are all government. And two, those guys who can, don't, obviously are not going to be,
They want to sell it out to market
or, what is 50 and 60,000 rupees a month to them, right? It's hardly going to be an incentive for them to put up a cell tower on their building.
No, I want to ask you, the WHO standards for EMF, they probably are related to a lower density of population. Does the higher density of population in India, does it, does the EMF sort of impact the population more because
Is
of
there any connection?
So that is taken into account by way of the formula, right? If you look at it, the denominator is meter squared, right? So it says there's a safety norm, which is either 0.445 watts per meter square. So what you're saying is that in a square meter, by time the EMF is felt,
Yeah, so-
right, at that point, anybody in that meter square should not be exposed to more than 0.45. So whether it's individual or cumulative, it doesn't matter, because either everybody is, exposed to the same 0.45 in that meter square.
global standards are 10 times of that. So in India, India has one of the most stringent norms globally.
Because again, as I said, when we started off in 2008, we adopted the WHO ICNF guideline. So to give you the actual numbers, 900, 1800 were the two most frequently used spectrum bands. And you also know that the higher in the spectrum band you go, the higher is the exposure number, right? That's just the laws of physics. So at 900, in 2008, the safety norm was 4.5 watts W per meter square, right, for 900. And this was the global norm. As I said, 93, 95% of the world adopted that. In 2011, when the government revised it, it came to 0.45 watts per meter square from 4.5. So less than 0.5%. 1800, it went from 9 watts per meter square to 0.9 watts per meter square. Now let me just put this into context. If you're living anywhere near where you get a TV signal or an FM signal, the average TV signal and a tower or FM tower puts out 2000 watts per meter square. So why don't people complain? You never see a TV tower, right? That's the issue. That's the issue.
There aren't so many.
And there aren't so many. So, but with regard to
the technology has been around for like 100 years, and it has over the years not proved to be a threat. But this is not so decisive about the.
No, but
Let me just add that over here, every electrical device has emissions. And scientifically it's been proven, even your regular tube light, which uses more often than not an electronic choke, gives out more emission than your mobile handset device or the signal that you
Don't
receive
carry
from
your
it.
choke in your pocket.
so
But you are exposed to, every evening you are exposed to that.
So,
Your
but,
television
yeah.
that you watch, the LED panels, they started at 100 hertz and they've gone up to 800 hertz.
So I think, but the point you're raising, is basically saying is that look, is just because TV operates at a different frequency, right? Yes. So although they're putting out 2000 watts, they usually operate at ultra high frequency, which is saying is that the safety norms still are safe. All right. So the government of India is saying is that look, whether it's TV or all I'm trying to say is that when you look at the relative frequencies used by TV and by mobile, it's very, very different and very nominal, and that is why the government of India says, and globally, it says, at 0.45 and 0.9, let me give you an analogy, and you can test this with you can go to your physics professors. If you say that if I were to hold a bottle of water, and if you ask me over 100 years, will it ever bring you to a boil? Why can't it bring you to a boil? Because this can't go any more than 98.8 degrees temperature that my hand is transferring to this, right? That is a very simple analogy in terms of saying when you have 0.45 and 0.9, it cannot begin to start disturbing your DNA. That is the fundamental principle.
But whatever you are saying, people are refusing to set up towers, which means the message is still not bought by the whatever the fears. It is true, and the towers are not going to be allowed. Then what do you do?
So thank you. I'll go to the next. So let's get to the next area. All right. This is, by the way, this is just to highlight what the government wants, right? Government of India is saying they want us to achieve all of this, right? But let's just go to the next. All right. Here's what. Obviously, we're trying to get new cell sites. And what are we doing in terms of new cell sites? With regard to 3G, 4G, especially 4G, because it's on the higher band of the spectrum, 2300, we have to bring the cell towers lower. So you won't notice, but now you will see cell towers on top of light posts and lamp posts and behind hoardings and all of these types of things. So even though we are installing new cell sites, which are the regular types of cell sites, the form factor of the cell sites are changing. Today, what was a 6-foot antenna today is 3 feet. And before, an antenna or a BTS, what I call the electronics, required a small little room. Today they fit in a box no longer than bigger than this. So as a result, as we go forward, the number of sites that we are putting up are less obtrusive. I mean, they're not as big and difficult. Now, let me also just go a little bit out. People have often asked, you know, you go to America, you go to Europe, you don't see these big ugly towers. Why? Two reasons. And as I said, I've worked extensively abroad, and I'll bring that experience to bear. In foreign countries, the only thing you really see on the exterior of buildings is the antenna. All right? So, why do you see only the antenna? Because the backhaul portion, all cell towers have to ultimately carry that information and traffic back to the central switching station. The switching station is what really looks at the information. Oh, A is calling B, or B is living in Delhi, and oh, by the way, B has X amount of rupees in their prepaid. You know, all of that information, right, is centrally located in what we call our switching station. The BTS, or what the cell tower is, basically just a processor of your call, takes the call, kind of parses it, and sends it on. So this is what we call the backhaul portion, or middle backhaul portion. All right, most countries, most developed countries, that portion is carried over either copper or fiber or cable. And in most developed countries, that comes right into the building. Every building, whether you're a home or an office building. And in the building, they have what they call